We don't understand what's going to happen with the state. Forget. Get it.
Welcome to the February 26th meeting of the Sandusky City Commission. We'll have an invocation offered by Commissioner Vargo, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father, as we come to this meeting tonight, we ask you for your guidance, wisdom, and support. Help us engage in meaningful discussions, and we may honor one another by keeping an open mind. Allow us to present our best selves for the residents and the community that we serve. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Myers, will you call the roll?
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Coons?
Aye.
Mr. Crable?
Here.
Ms. Fargo?
Here.
Mr. Waddington?
Here.
Mr. Brady?
Here.
Mr. Murray?
Here.
Mr. Pajali?
Here.
Commissioners, you have before you the minutes of our meeting of February the 12th. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Waddington.
I move that we accept the minutes of the February 12th meeting as presented.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second discussion. Without objection, that motion will be approved, and hearing no objection, that motion is approved. Any residents with comments regarding tonight's agenda, please step to our podium, give us your name and address, and share with us your comments.
Thank you, President, Brady, City Commissioners. I have three items. Number one item is the Columbus Avenue reconstruction. The question I have is, and the community's asking as well, have we done our homework to make sure that this project does not go way over cost of $5 million? We all refer back to Perkins Ave, which ended up costing $1 million cost overrun. If memory serves me correctly, back in the 1980s, I believe Columbus Avenue was part of a streetscape plan at that time. Sidewalks were removed. I remember in one instance when we got in front of the State Theater, they actually ran into a bowling alley that was underneath the sidewalks there, and we had to remove that. So I believe there's been significant work maybe 30 years ago, maybe less than that, I'm not really quite sure. Is there a part of this project that we are paying for, the city's paying for, that is normally the responsibility of the property owner? That would be a question, whether or not we're getting into their part too, that we're all paying for that, where the property owner should be paying for that. Item number two is the water and sewer rate increase. There's a very, very familiar phrase that I'm going to refer to, and it's failure to plan on your part does not constitute an emergency on the community's part. Perhaps we can get an explanation tonight why the water fund was not propped up with the $18 million that we received in ARPA funds. Again, if anybody can correct me on this, please don't hesitate. If this is not something that we could use that money for, please let me know that we could not use that $18 million to prop up the water fund during those lean times in which we weren't getting money in from water and sewer. Please correct me on that. In addition, for 2024, we are looking at another anticipated record year for general fund income to $34 million. Just prior to issue 8 passage, I think we were at 16 million, so that we have more than doubled what we were getting in through the general fund in 2016, 2015. The question is, again, I think we've talked about this before here, that we could have used that money to prop up the water and perhaps the sewer fund at the time, but we didn't. Let me remind you that 21%, according to the census, 21% of our community lives in or below poverty levels. Okay, so just using me as an example, I'm not in poverty, but I use a laundromat to do my laundry. 16 years ago, no, less than that. Before you guys did your first increase, a quarter would get me 12 minutes in a dryer right down the street. Now a quarter gets me 7 minutes. Okay? At that time, before the last increases, I was paying $4 for a washing machine. I'm now paying $8. What am I trying to tell you? You increase the rates. I go to the laundromat. They're not swallowing that increase. I am as a customer. Okay? And you can say that for everywhere. You can say it for an ice cream shop. Their water rates go up. I'm now paying $9 for an ice cream cone. Okay, so think about that for a minute. Item number 9, which is the...
Mr. Schwanger,
Yes, sir.
are you getting close? Because
I am,
try
30
to
seconds.
limit it to 3
I am,
minutes,
30
but I
seconds.
give you a broad brush.
30 seconds.
Okay.
That's okay. The underpass, $35,000 additional changeover for exterior improvements. Can we get an explanation on how it costs $35,000 more for exterior improvements? Thank you for the brush. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Schwanger.
Hello, City Commissioners. My name is Mackenzie Spriggs, 616 Superior Street. Today, I'm here representing Destination Sandusky, a program of the Greater Sandusky Partnership. At your last City Commission meeting, we heard regional support from some of our area's largest employers, the Downtown Sandusky Master Plan Steering Committee, the North Coast Young Professionals, the Longer family involved in the Downtown Hotel, and the Sandusky State Theater. You all requested some on-the-ground feedback from businesses and residents affected by the Columbus Avenue Streetscape project. I have a few quotes to share. From Larry Fletcher of Shores and Islands, Ohio. Over the last 3 years that Shores and Islands, Ohio has been operating a welcome center at 125 East Water Street, we have realized a continual increase in people through our doors who represent just a small portion of the people who are drawn to downtown Sandusky. In 2023, we welcomed over 14,000 guests, more than double what we tracked during 2016, the last year at the Milan Road location by the mall. The evidence clearly points to the increase being due to pedestrian traffic. As the city undertakes projects to enhance the pedestrian experience, at the same time we are seeing trends in Ohio and across the country that people are increasingly seeking out walkable destinations. It stands to reason that our businesses and others in Sandusky will continue to benefit from more people coming through their doors. George Gast of Musicians Alley said, "I'm for it. I think it'll be beautiful and look forward to working through the challenges." Jamie Tallman of Jack's Bar and Tallman Investments LLC said the Columbus Avenue Streetscape will bring more outdoor space downtown, which will attract more people to come hang out, and the project will attract more retail businesses to the area to shop leisurely. It will be important to build the Jackson Street parking garage as quickly as possible to offset any parking challenges. Justin Harris of Reminger Company LPA said Reminger's decision to maintain an office in the heart of downtown Sandusky was made based on the firm's belief in the city's revitalization, development, progress, and synergy. Reminger supports the development of Columbus Ave and the city's pursuit of excellence. Kabui of the Small City Tap House said, "It's good for the downtown. I'm going to build up a nice patio once the project goes forward." David Kamen, a downtown resident at 105 West Water Street, said, "As a resident of downtown Sandusky, I believe nothing is more important for the continued resurgence of our city than the Columbus Avenue Streetscape project. It will not just beautify our beloved city, but also bring more visitors, residents, and businesses to our downtown district and serve to further unite our community." And finally, Ron Parthmore, a downtown resident at 416 East Market Street, said, "Keep building on the momentum. Additional new homes are being constructed on Market Street. Many other homes have new paint or are being renovated. Please vote to implement the Columbus Avenue Streetscape project." And lastly, if approved tonight, I just want you all to know that Destination Sandusky and the Greater Sandusky Partnership promise to be good partners in overcoming any obstacles related to parking and communication to keep our business community strong. Thank you.
Ms. Briggs, you're just under the wire.
I think he can't hear. He can't hear. Oh, is that the speaker?
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Alyssa Fisher, 2808 Lynn Drive, and I was asked to read a letter on behalf of Tyler P. Franklin, 1117 Marlborough Street. This past October, I wrote to our local newspaper that Sandusky was at a crossroads, that we had the opportunity to keep pushing forward with a bold agenda that promotes economic development and resident well-being, or that we could turn back to the old guard mentality that Sandusky can scrape by with the minimal transformation. This crossroads has become apparent with the question of whether or not to reimagine the crown jewel of Columbus Avenue. The immediate question regarding the financial feasibility of the project is valid, and an investment of such magnitude in downtown alone should raise eyebrows. However, the financing of the Columbus Avenue project is quite straightforward. Every dollar to be committed to the redesign is from funds derived through downtown TIF dollars and admissions tax dollars dedicated to the downtown area. In other words, this money is not eligible for spending in neighborhoods or on other public services. With that concern quelled, opposition to the project must be in regards to the physical changes being proposed. Again, initial concerns on parking, accessibility, and other challenges are valid. But upon further investigation, these concerns also seem to be voided plain and simple. The plan creates increased sidewalk accessibility for pedestrians of all abilities, widens outdoor dining spaces for merchants, and enhances the amenities for downtown visitors. Most pressing, though, the modest decrease in parking spaces on Columbus Avenue is easily rectified with parking increases in adjacent areas. In my 4 years of study on urban design at the University of Wisconsin, not once has a marginal decrease in parking spaces through streetscape beautification negatively impacted businesses, nor has it deterred patrons from visiting a destination. In fact, the increased foot traffic has proven time and time again to enhance markets and strengthen property values. With that, I plead that abandoning this project could coincide with falling behind the times. Cities must evolve to remain prosperous. The idea we can stop evolving without any consequences is unsound. If humans stopped evolving, we'd go extinct. I believe it is a fundamental role of government to maximize our opportunities to harness as much private enterprise and financial investment. Shoreline Drive was the start. Jackson Street Pier has proven its value. The Columbus Avenue project and the way it would continue to evolve our community with the wants and needs of contemporary consumers does not only solidify Sandusky as an emerging market, but one primed for lasting economic prosperity. A city best suited to open doors not only for our current taxpayers, but for the students walking the halls of our schools. Our crossroads is here. We can go back to that unimaginative concrete-covered city of yesterday, or we can roar forward, making the past 10 years the opening act to our generational comeback story. The choice is clear, and our window to make the right one is only getting smaller. I urge the City Commission to approve the Columbus Avenue project and keep moving Sandusky forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin.
Good. Come on up. This guy, come on. I think he's trying to listen. He's trying to listen. How you doing?
I'm Tim Herron. I'm a Sandusky resident. I live at 226 East Washington Street. This is my first meeting. And I just want to say that I'm here to support the Columbus Avenue project. When I moved to Sandusky in 2000, I've been practicing neurology here at the Firelands Hospital since then. I would take walks on the weekends, and I would just be struck by the wide open parking spaces with trash blowing around them. And I just thought, what a sad feeling that I get of desolation. And I am here because I'm so proud of the progress that we've made through the entrepreneurs of Caesar and Andrea with Zinc, which I fully supported. I just feel that there's a tremendous momentum that we're building here. And one of the things I'm most proud of being here in Sandusky is a sense of community that I'm feeling now. And even from a health aspect, having a sense of community where people can gather in public spaces and feel as one is such a powerful feeling. And I feel that when I go to the farmers markets, the farmers market in the summer, and I just realize we have such a diverse community, and I'm so proud of that. When I went to medical school, I was living in Cleveland Heights, and I was always so proud of the diversity of my community in Cleveland Heights, and I feel the same way here. That's really special, and we have something very unique. And I just feel that the more opportunities we could create for our public spaces where everyone can get together, especially during this time of division in our country, is such a positive thing. And I just feel that even though maybe some of the places we have here may be a little upscale, I just feel that the benefits spill over to everyone in the community, maybe through employment opportunities or just a feeling we're a public space where people can go. And I understand there's going to be some green space involved where people could just go and enjoy being together. And I guess it's no coincidence that all my social media sites are Sand Pride. So if you ever see that, that's me. And I'm just very proud to be a Sandusky resident. I really hope we continue the momentum. It's just really a wonderful thing that's happening here. And I just offer my support. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Jordan Sternberg, 1105 Marlborough Street. Respected commissioners, my name's Jordan, as I said. I serve as director of the marketing department at Firelands Health. Thanks for the opportunity to speak with you today. I'm speaking in place of my vice president, Drew Meredith, who is actively recruiting physicians tonight as we speak. Like Drew, I was born here and raised in Sandusky. This is my hometown. The only time I ever left was for college. As a young guy, I spent many days riding my bike around the streets of downtown Sandusky. No school meant meant rolling out of our historic home's driveway in Central Avenue through Central Park, downtown, and through Central Park, downtown. And I recall many vacant storefronts when I was young. Few businesses survived back then. Some that come to mind: Cabana Jack's, the Lunchbox, Musicians Alley, Pop Culture, who had a great selection of action figures, just to name a few. My bike loop took me down Jackson Street Pier and over to Battery Park, where I would visit my mom at the former city building. The main thing I remember back then was that my city was rather sad, but it had potential. Our local leaders had vision to improve our city, but little traction was made. Often I heard people say, there's nothing to do around here, and potential was about it. Fast forward about 20 years, downtown Sandusky has experienced a transformation thanks to the efforts of bold entrepreneurs and committed city leaders. The vibrant downtown that I see today benefits residents and brings in visitors. When I was a kid, party at the plaza was about the only thing that brought people downtown. Now there's a bustle of activity every day. That childhood experience that I described downtown Jackson Street Pier, along the waterfront, Battery Park, has all vastly changed. There's a dichotomy between my childhood experience and now. Sandusky is a place where my wife, Brittany, and I are proud to raise our 2 daughters. Regularly, we patronize restaurants on the main stretch of Columbus Ave and pick snacks from soda pops and enjoy concerts at the pier. We have a hard time choosing where to go for date night. Talking with Drew, he and his wife, Tawny, also feel that the Columbus Ave project is a worthwhile endeavor for future generations. I represent Firelands Health tonight. We feel strongly about this Columbus Ave project, and it's a crucial component of Sandusky's revitalization. I brought up Drew. He's responsible for recruiting physicians to our community. You may know our nation is facing a national physician shortage. To sustain our breadth of services, Firelands needs to constantly compete with the cities across America to entice physicians. Over the past 18 years, Drew has successfully placed over 150 physicians. Tours downtown Sandusky are always part of our recruitment efforts. This downtown matters not just to us, it matters to the future of healthcare professionals trying to decide if that is the place they want to live and raise their families. It's hard to understate the human capital represented at Firelands and what it means for this community, not just in terms of the physicians we recruit, but the approximately 2,000 individuals we employ. We work, live, and play here. However, in order to thrive, we need top-notch physicians to care for our patients. Our patients are analogous to citizens of the surrounding communities. There's a symbiotic relationship between our workforce and this community. Part of what makes Firelands attractive is a vibrant, walkable downtown. When we find ourselves unable to recruit someone, whether that be a physician or an area manager, the reason often points to a lack of environment that they've come to expect.
Are you
They're
close,
looking,
Mr. Sternberg?
I'm very close, yes, thank you. They're looking for welcoming, walkable places with amenities such as Crocker Park or similar. I work with many transplants. They have little contextual knowledge of how Sandusky has come. My hope is that they will say that there are actually things to do in Sandusky. You look at the progress, Jackson Street Pier, all the things I mentioned earlier, new roadways, improved cities, schools. For us at Firelands, that's a vibe that revitalization has our workforce has come to expect.
Thank you, Mr. Sternberg.
Thank you. If the Jackson Street Pier is the head of this of downtown. The Columbus Ave project is the heart. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Gavin Longer, 401 West Shoreline Drive. Thanks for allowing me to speak again. On behalf of North Coast Inns and the Hampton by Hilton downtown, I just want to reiterate our support for the Columbus Avenue project. Not only is it going to increase the viability and the value proposition of the hotel and downtown, as a lifelong Sandusky resident, I truly feel it's going to be something that everybody in town could be proud of. Growing up here, there used to be, a long time ago, I don't know if you guys remember, there were light blue and white bumper stickers, and it said Sandusky, Ohio, and proud of it. With the implementation of the master plan, I feel we're getting back to that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Longer. Additional comments?
Hi there. My name is James Wire. I live at 1010 West Jefferson Street. I don't know if you would remember Mr. Waddington, but we went to high school together. And I hope you would remember the uproar that was raised when the mall was built and the big stores moved out from downtown Sandusky because of the lack of parking. We're getting to a point now where downtown Sandusky is getting rebuilt. There are businesses opening, small mom and pop businesses, some other businesses, maybe larger, but we're finally getting some business back downtown. My question about the Columbus Avenue project is, where are you going to move the parking spaces so that it could be harder for the older people in this city to get around? A lot of the parking spaces have been taken away, quite a few of them for the tourists, which is fine if you would like to be on the cover of AAA Travel magazine. But I think the people of this town actually deserve something that respects them and respects their habitation and their mobility. I hope you take my words into your thoughts. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Greetings, everyone. Tom Lamarca, 206 48th Street. I was not going to talk about the streetscape project, but I might as well jump into that. $5 million to do that project, to change the trees out and to put in a new pavement and widen the sidewalk so we can accommodate dining on Columbus Avenue. It's a great idea. What I see wrong with it is that the restaurants and bars that have tried to work with the space that we have, which is plenty for outside dining, at this point, they don't seem to fill their tables most of the time with diners out on the curb. And so I don't know where you're going to gain the diners to come in or the additional restaurants to come in to justify the means. Yes, it's going to look pretty. No doubt about it. I hope you stay within the budget. As we all know, there were trolley cars and trains running up and down Columbus Avenue many years ago, and I don't want you to run into a situation where you run into major tracking gear down like you did on Columbus Avenue in the center of Columbus and Market Street, which is a good possibility. Now, perhaps Mr. Klein has some old drawings that will show that I'm wrong and there are no tracks in there, but I'm going to guess that you're going to come across some. My other concern is item number 10 on the agenda, I believe it is, where we're doing some sidewalk repair and replacement and some grinding for 2024, and we're spending $124,000. We've got, we had $18 million or $20 million of federal funds that were given to us, and perhaps we should have thrown some more money into that fund. But my question is, why is the fire department losing some of their funds to support that sidewalk project. Normally, we take money from the water and sewer fund because there happens to be a water line within 100 feet or a sewer line within 100 feet, and so we borrow, or whatever you want to call it, pilfer that water fund. Now we've turned the water fund upside down, where we always had $1 million, $1.5 million surplus, and now suddenly we're down to $700,000, and so we've got to increase the water rates to build that fund back up. So that's it. Why are we spending the fire department's money? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lamarca. Additional comments from the public on agenda items?
West Pool's 1939 East Oldgate. On item 6, your safety project, since it's in the design phase, and appreciate a reply if you think it's a bad idea or not, I would like to, if you would consider expanding the sidewalk wide enough so that it can take traffic for bicycles and people walking. It's a major street area that you're never likely to put in a bike lane, but transportation across the city in ways other than cars is kind of important. So that's one. I suppose I shouldn't leave without saying something about the streetscape. I am not, I'm not I will, as most folks do, go downtown as I choose. And if you've got disposable income, high-end restaurants, anything new is worthwhile doing that. And the question that the folks who have not been too excited about this has been about the parking, and they're the only ones that have anything to lose. I personally don't care whether you put this in or not. I'm only going to participate to the degree that it suits me. But for businesses downtown, they're all not the same, and parking impacts their businesses differently. So all I would ask is that you just take into consideration that some folks have said, hey, this is going to impact us really bad. The margin's tight on what we do, and some of us, it's like, I don't think anywhere in Erie County anybody has to walk more than about 75 feet to get a haircut. Now, if you've decided you don't care whether that business survives or not, then show them the courtesy of just saying, we've made a decision that says, hey, some of you folks ain't going to make it. The concept of going out of town and for special events, my daughter lives in Marietta, Georgia. If I had to hitchhike from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and that was the only way to get there, I'd do it. So walk in an extra block for something that's actually important for you to see. Special events, that's the same. It's Cleveland downtown. You pay $50 to go watch LeBron James when he's in town. People will pay for that. But these businesses have to pay the bills year-round, and that makes a difference. And just consider that, and I take note that there were things suggested. Someone said, well, it can save parking if you make it a one-way street. I think Ms. Vargo at the last meeting said, hey, why don't we have a full plan for what we're going to do about parking? I think that's really the issue here, is that this is based on hopes and dreams, and all you have to show is thoughts and prayers if it doesn't work. I don't know whether it will or not. But unless you're in a big hurry, perhaps this should be a little bit more detailed, and we should feel a little more comfortable that this isn't just, like I said, hopes and dreams, and whoever doesn't survive, doesn't survive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Poole.
Thank you, Wes.
Additional comments on agenda items? Commissioners, you have before you several communications from staff recommending various pieces of legislation. Can I have a motion to accept those communications?
So moved. Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. Without objection, the motion will be approved. And hearing no objection, that motion is approved. Commissioners, we have 5 items on the consent agenda this evening. Do any of you wish to move any of those items to the regular agenda? Ms. Myers, will you present the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. President. Item A, approval of payment for Battery Park submerged land lease to ODNR. Item B, approval of property acquisitions and easements for Cleveland Road Safety Project. Item C, approval of contract for 2024 yard waste collection with Browning Ferris. Item D, approval of contract for Dragons and Bacon Fest with Great White North. Item E, permission to purchase turnout gear for the fire department.
Commissioners, having heard these ordinances and resolutions, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Waddington.
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda items A through E and declaring that all ordinances and/or resolutions presented to the City Commission shall take effect in accordance with the sections reflected in accordance with Section 13 or 14 of the City Charter.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. Ms. Myers, will you call the roll on the motion, please?
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
And now on the ordinances and
Mr.
resolutions.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
Those ordinances and resolutions are passed. We will turn to our regular agenda. Ms. Myers, will you present item number 1, please?
It is requested a resolution be passed declaring the necessity for the city to proceed with the proposed Columbus Avenue reconstruction and streetscape project, approving the specifications and engineer's estimate of cost thereof, and directing the city manager to advertise for and receive bids in relation thereto, and directing and declaring that this resolution shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this resolution, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Murray.
move for the adoption of this ordinance pursuant to Section 14 of the city's charter.
Do we have a second to that
Second.
motion? We have a motion and a second. Discussion, Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, it's a resolution.
Mr. Waddington.
It's a resolution, correct?
Resolution, that's correct.
Okay, I thought I heard it.
I correct my motion then, thank you.
Discussion. Questions or comments, Commissioners?
I'll go ahead. Mr. Chairman, I'm still learning my role.
It's all right.
First of all, thank you for everyone that spoke and support of the project for Columbus Streetscape. It is a beautiful project. I think what's been difficult for some of us, as it was pointed out in the paper, we know there's been development been planned with the master plan for downtown, and we appreciate that. But coming in and not being part of that planning has been something that has been difficult because we weren't there. We didn't come up with these ideas. We didn't have a say, and so now we're supposed to vote on it. So a lot of us up here, and not everyone, but a lot of us have gone out 3 years later since the master plan for downtown was adopted, and this last couple weeks and last month, I'd say, we've been talking to people downtown as well, just like Mackenzie pointed out, as many people for it. There's just as many people that are struggling to be supportive of it. And so, that's put me in it's a really difficult situation because sometimes I feel like I have more questions than I have answers to. I want to take us back just quickly to 2014. There was a study design that the Sandusky Main Street and the city and Sandusky partnered together and did a study design that by Kimberly Horn and Associates. And the idea was to look at a proactive parking policy that would be important to the continued revitalization and growth of the downtown Sandusky. This action plan provides the community with a comprehensive and strategic approach to parking resource management intended to align parking and access management policies with larger community and economic developmental goals. So what they were saying at the time is that our economic development goals need to coincide with a strategic parking plan in 2014. Now, if we go 10 years later, we're still sitting here trying to figure out, instead of being reactive to parking like we've been, we're trying to figure out how to maybe come up with a proactive parking plan. And I think several of us on here want to see that done. I will also point out that in 2014, While the amount of parking available is sufficient to meet current needs at this point, parking will emerge as a more critical issue than ever before as increased parking demands begin to approach or even exceed supply. As new development projects emerge, it is likely that some existing surface parking lots could be redeveloped, decreasing the current supply and increasing demand. It is not too early to begin planning for a new supply and developing funding strategies to meet this critical future infrastructure need. So we've been 10 years, and so my point is we can't continue to kick the ball down the road. And I'm so excited about the State Theater opening here. I hope it's sooner rather than later. But as I look back and I think about what's going to happen when 1,400 people come to town, which I hope will pack the place every time it's open, what happens then? Where do they go? We'll probably get a quicker glimpse when we have the Eclipse Day, which is another exciting time for our community. Where I'm at on this is I would like to see us, and I had a wonderful meeting with Erin Blair, and she has committed, I believe, and I'll ask her, what she has to say about it again, but she's committed to me that we would work on a parking plan. My concern is there any way that we could develop the parking plan, see what happens with the State Theater opening, not say no to this project, but put it down a little bit further? And I know some of my colleagues would say, Kate, we do that, then we miss the down season, and we're going to potentially add money to the project. We don't know that. Those are all what ifs, just like everyone says, what if we don't do the project? So again, you can tell I have a lot of questions and not all the answers, but I will ask Erin, just if you could share with us where we are as a city on creating a comprehensive parking management plan.
Ms. Blair, I know that you and I have spoken also, and I know that you have answers to several of these questions. I would ask you to address that, and when you're done with that, I would ask you also to address, I believe there's a question from the public regarding change orders, cost overruns. I think we certainly discussed that, and I think we have a plan for that also.
Thank you, Commission President Brady. I did prep for some questions that I expected would come up today, so let me put these in the order that you've kind of asked them. So thank you for your questions, and thank you for taking the time, Commissioner Vargo, through the chair, to really do your homework on this. And Commissioner Kuntz and Commissioner Crable, I've also spoken with at length about these projects, and it's very meaningful to me as a professional who sits here all day and cares about the city and my work, and my brain goes into this, and our teams work together, that you are taking the time to really understand what you signed up for to sit at the table here. So I really have a lot of respect for that, and thank you. You mentioned the 2014 parking plan, and that really lays out a fantastic strategy. It has a lot of great tools in it. And a big takeaway that I'm hearing from our conversation, from what we're hearing from the community, and is really well stated in that plan, is that parking management is not a sideline issue. It is part of our revitalization strategy, that part of the economic development strategy is parking management. And the study points out when people are arriving here, finding a parking space, and when they're leaving an event or leaving dinner, or after they've bought something at a store or met a friend for coffee, then they go back to their car. So the parking is their first and last experience in our city, and it is important to pay attention to and to manage. So the study outlines steps for us to take, and there has been progress made based on that study. So from those recommendations, staff designed and implemented the downtown resident parking program, and that's in its 6th year of operation. The study also recommends the downtown master plan. So, finding a team to create that plan and do the community engagement and do the downtown master plan for development was part of the parking plan implementation strategy, and we have completed that. Staff also did updated parking counts in 2019, where they found that we still have a great abundance of spaces, but we know as development occurs that our abundance will decrease as more people want to be here, and that's a great problem to have, right? We can be thankful for that problem and also proactive, as you said, in solving it. So moving forward, our parking strategy is going to focus on 3 key outcomes. The first is that we ensure we have turnover in our on-street spaces. So we should have 10 to 20% of those on-street spaces open at any given time for people to pull up and grab a coffee or go buy something or have lunch. This is the critical piece for the success of the business and civic functions, to go have a haircut, right? To get to where you're trying to go and have those spaces be available for you. So in order to make sure that we're managing our on-street spaces, we're also ensuring that long-term parkers understand where to park. This is including downtown residents and visitors that are here overnight. We have to make sure they know where they're going and where to put their vehicle if they're going to be here overnight, so it's not in our on-street spaces. Number 3 is ensuring day-long parkers understand where to park. This is our business owners, our employees, visitors, and residents who are parking for multiple hours, who are here for work or enjoying downtown amenities longer than the time limit of those on-street spaces. So those are the 3 key outcomes we're going to be focusing on, and we are committed to implementing that parking management system that achieves these outcomes. And as we advance the setup of the system, we will provide updates to you in the manager's report. And you make the point, we have the 2014 study, we have the 2019 counts that staff made. We have the tools at our disposal to create that system and implement it in the time frame of this streetscape being built.
Change orders?
Yes.
Hey, Aaron, just real quick on that, just before you go away from that, but there's still not really, we don't have a how yet, right? It's something that you're going to be building.
We don't have a house, so there's a number of different ways that the parking system, the parking study points to of how you implement that. And what we need to do, we've had leadership changes since then. We have had staff changes. We have external organizations that are supportive of the city that didn't exist when that parking study was written. So that's what we need to get to work on. And as we discussed last week, our energy has been devoted to bringing this streetscape to market ready to construct for you, and knowing that parking management would be the follow-on next step to work on. I'd love to pivot to the why now question, because Ms. Vargo brought that up as well. And I think there's a lot of ways you can answer this question. The first, why do we construct this project right now? Why can't it wait? And one, we made the promise in the downtown plan that this is the first thing that we would do, and it's been a couple years since we adopted it, and we've been working on this since the plan was adopted, and it's ready. Also, in the studies on the economic impact of these types of projects that I cited in our last presentation, the public investment came first. So the public investment is a signal to the private market that a place is worth the risk of investing in. When we're looking at the stuff that we've got in the pipeline, like the hotel project, or even like the hography building that was finished, some of those investments have been made, and we expect more investments to be made based on the public sector investment signaling to the market that we all believe this place is worth investing in. Logistically, the construction timeline is really carefully thought out to be the least inconvenient, and it will be inconvenient, but to be the very least inconvenient we can possibly make it. So a fall and spring, so delaying it is at least a full year. You can't, if we slide it, then we're gonna end up in our busy season. And we are in close communication with the State Theater reopening, et cetera, so that the timeline is really carefully thought out. Right now, we have the time to get a contractor online. They can buy the materials they'll need that have long delays to make sure they have the materials to do the construction in the time frame that we're giving them. And finally, I would say from an institutional knowledge standpoint, it's very valuable to build a project as soon as you've designed it, because Josh and I know the 162 pages of technical engineering drawings back and forth right now. We know the 17 pages that are this big of landscape drawings back and forth. And so does our Osborne team and our MKSK team. So if we push anything off, then we move on to other things, and our brain, our storage of this knowledge decreases. We have to remind ourselves of everything that's in it. We risk staff changeover in any of our design teams. And so that institutional knowledge could create outcomes for the project that we don't want to see. Change orders? Okay, so another question that's come up is, how do we manage this budget, and how do we avoid bringing you change orders for more money? And once we dig into the ground, it absolutely there's risk in finding something you didn't expect to see. During this design phase, we authorized extra geotechnical work that's not typical for every project, so we had a really firm understanding of what's underground. The vaults came up. Those were resolved in the 1999 streetscape installation. The rails came up. So there's things that we know because they dug up the street in the 99 streetscape, and then we also conducted extensive geotechnical analysis. We also conducted an incredibly thorough survey documentation of every single thing. So we have a drawing of where every paver is and every pole and every blade of grass, basically a really extensive survey. And what that does is give us a high degree of confidence in our cost estimate. When things do arise, we will do our best to manage that, any surprises, to have a cost neutral outcome. And we also have design fee left in our design contract with that team to help us resolve anything that Josh and I and our staff with our collective knowledge cannot solve. And it's also my understanding that the design's engineers' cost estimates are deliberately conservative. So that's the confidence level we have, and we will do our best to not bring any change orders with financial implications to you. And we'll see what happens when we start doing.
Additional comments or questions, Commissioner?
Mr. Commissioner?
Commissioner Gomes?
Just a few things. And I'll say this for myself, even though I know that Kate and Jeff are new to the commission as well. But I think that a lot of the angst that I have is related to this idea or the fact that all of this work has been done, right? And so you're going to get that with new commissioners. All the work's been done. Folks have been working hard in the city to make sure that this is possible, right? So we didn't have the benefit of being there with the questions that we would have if we were there, right? So that's a dilemma. But even when I ask the questions about, it's a difficult question to actually answer, about the construction and what it looks like and how, before it's even finished, affects the merchants. That's one that wasn't really adequately addressed because it's difficult, because it's got to go out for bid. I get it, right? And they have to decide, but what is our role in ensuring that we minimize that impact, right? It's like, I don't remember having that conversation with, other commissioners and talking about it, which I think is important. Is also something I'm going to address later in another question. But I'm interested in it. I know that we're going to have a parking garage, right? The State Theater's going to have one there. I know that they want to accommodate the folks who are staying at the hotel, right? And there are going to be times when they're not staying there, and so you'll be able to utilize that parking. But then we never really talk about how much is that going to cost the folks, right? Because anywhere else you go, parking costs money, right? That's another issue. Right? There are all these issues that will come up as it relates to this, right? Doing this project. And I'll say this, I'm actually for the development. It's beautiful. And I'm really excited about all these things that are going on. But I really want to make sure that, and I know there was some talk about this before, that, how much longer would it take just to address that and lay it out for people so they see it? Like, okay, we've lost the pull-in parking. This is how I describe this. We're losing the pull-in parking, but we're going to have some parallel parking. How many of those spaces are lost? And some of that's in here. There are numbers laid out to say X number of spaces is what we'll have now. But I noticed that it goes all the way from Adams Street, right? And realistically, right, I might not look like an elderly guy, but I'm an elderly guy. Right, so if I actually get here a little later than I intended to, and I have to walk from Adams, I can make it, but I'm always concerned about what's going on with those. That's a long walk for them, right? I'm always concerned about how we handle that. A lot of times I know we can't answer these questions right now, but that 2014 study, which is a decade old now, right? I'm always saying, wait a minute, we had the study. What was done as it related to the study, right? And you talked about some of those things. So that's what's causing me angst, right? It's causing me angst, not that I'm not for it. I want to do it, but it's causing me angst, just this particular problem with parking. What will it mean, the impact? How many businesses won't survive, right? And those are the kinds of questions that I have that just cause me angst. I just felt like I needed to let you know and let the commissioners know. I've got angst. I really do.
Additional comments, Commissioner? Commissioner Kirby.
I have a lot of things, a lot of thoughts to share. This has not been an easy topic for me because I see merchants, people who own property downtown, who are genuinely concerned about their very existence. And I get it. I started off as the smallest of small businesses. me, myself, and I, okay? And it would not have been helpful to me to have government overlaying something on me that was a further burden. Let me just get into some specifics. The whole parking thing is just, it's a nightmare to me. It's a nightmare to me because when this study was done, and I think, Aaron, I shared this with you, I believe I was president of the Main Street Board, who was the partner with the city that did the study. So I remember quite a few things back from that time. They wanted to take a different direction in terms of how to manage the parking than I think the city was willing to step out and do at that time. And that's fine, water under the bridge. But there was so much detail about what needed to be done. And it wasn't three things, okay? It was, I don't know, 10 or a dozen things, okay? One of the interesting outcomes, and this was brought to mind in one of my conversations with a fellow commissioner, is on page 8 in that 2014 report. It's part of the summary of the report. And by the way, I apologize for my throat. I'm losing my ability to speak, which some will probably applaud. But on page 8, it says that if these matters are not addressed soon, then they will accumulate over time. The problems will accumulate over time to the point of an actual emergency. And the concern that the study at that time had here was that all of the surface lots were not just parking. They weren't seen as just parking. They were all being talked about as sites for development. And what has happened since then? Jackson Street Pier, wonderful project, great looking project, a lot of great activities, but how many parking spaces did we lose there? And 172, someone said, okay. We built the BG facility down here on what? Another surface parking lot. Okay, so how many spaces did we lose there? What's happening is we have been, since 2014, we have steadily been losing parking. Okay, sometimes in little ways, and sometimes in quite substantial ways. At the same time that's been going on, we've had a ramping up of development. People want to come here. They want to invest their money here. They want to be part of who we are, what we are. We are behind. We are way behind on this matter. We're going to have to come up with some really creative ideas. And by the way, Commissioner Waddington, I commend you for your thoughts on this matter. I think a little bit of brilliance was included in your suggestion. But we're going to have to rethink this. One thing that I would point out is that when that study was published in 2014, it was not published that it was going to become another job or another job description for someone at the city to manage. That was not part of it, okay? It was that there would be an independent entity whose sole responsibility was operating, looking out for cleaning, striping, and maintaining all of the parking that had anything to do with the downtown area. And that was head-in parking, it was parallel parking, it was surface parking, it was remote parking, it was, should we build another parking deck? A wide variety of considerations. So this should not be, this is just a loose term, and I'm not casting aspersions on anyone, but this should not be an empire building thing. Okay, this is something which, if we're going to really take seriously, we need to also take seriously the recommendations of the studies that have been done about it being independently managed, reporting back to the commission, okay, because ultimately that's where the authority derives, but having an independent body that does it. And why? In part because it pays for itself. That was one of the most surprising outcomes of that study. And I encourage the public, it's all available online. I don't know where, but it's all available online. And I'm sure Erin could make it even more available if we needed her to do so. But this project, if run properly, pays for itself. It pays for a full-time staff to do all of this, okay? So I don't think we ought to be looking at it as, okay, the city commission has to now come up with more money to do this. We're going to have to pay more money probably to update the study to get from where we are now to where we need to be. Why do I spend so much time talking about this? Because some of the people who are here, because of the merchants, because of the property owners that are downtown, they aren't convinced. And I find it difficult in a position where each one of us has been elected and entrusted to do what's best for as many people as possible in this community, and to de-gnarl, okay, if that's even a word, but pull apart the string ball so that we can actually get down to some detail and do something with it. Questions were raised previously, and I think Commissioner Vargo did it. I don't have ownership of this, okay? When this plan was put together, it was put together by a different group of commissioners, probably with some different staff that were involved. What I'm left with is looking at what's before me, okay? What is right here, and a very pleasant meeting that we had. And talking to the parties that are most directly affected. We'll take a vote tonight. Whatever that outcome is what it is, okay? The consequences are on them, not on us. And I think we have to be very, very cautious about what we do here. I do not believe that this is a crisis, that we have to vote on this tonight. And if it slides another year, it just does. It just does, until we know exactly what we're doing. The parking is fundamental to this. It is, in some regards, probably the heart and soul of many of the concerns that people have. But let me point something out. All the conversation to this point has been about how many spaces are we losing? Wrong question. Do you see what's going on in this town? We should be talking about how many spaces are we creating. To worry about the loss of 3, the loss of 13, whatever the number is, it's the wrong question. It's looking backwards. It's looking to where we've been, not where we're headed. We need to be thinking about how we increase the availability of parking, be it right in the center of town, or maybe the next ring outside that. And I really was very happy for not only this meeting, but the last meeting to have the gentleman here who's developing the hotel. I applaud you. It's more risk that I'd be willing to undertake, but I'm thrilled that you're doing that. But I don't think we even have an answer at this point, with all due respect. We're just not there yet, about how many public spaces there's even going to be there. We talk as if, oh, there's also going to be these public spaces. I don't know that. And it's a major expense for him. And to be quite candid about it, as slick an answer as that is, I don't think we ought to be relying on the public sector or the private sector to be answering our problems. So if this goes forward and we decide to vote on this in its current form, I'll be voting no.
Additional comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, a lot of the things I was going to say has already been said, so I won't, I'll try not to repeat myself. I agree with Mr. Crable on this hotel parking. We don't even have an MOU in place. We don't even know how many spaces we're going to get. So I'm not sure we can even rely on that for parking. As far as Ms. Vargo talked about the State Theater and it's seating 1,500 people, if you split that in half, let's say you get 700 cars, where are you going to put 700 cars? I don't know. I mean, I'm just thinking, where are 700 cars going to go? If you split it in half, you could have more than that. If you, the Fike property got developed and Falcon Lofts got developed, I think the Fike was 66 units and Falcon Loft was 80 units. I don't know how much occupancy they have, but let's say if you had 140 units, you split that in half. People like, I hear younger people like to ride bikes and walk, so they may not have cars. So let's split it in half. That's 70 permanent spaces where people have to park. And I went through the master plan. I looked at page 91, which says the top 10 priority projects, and they list the early pipeline projects, which were the Cook Building, the Fike Building renovation. Number 2 was State Theater restoration. Number 3 was the Jackson Street parking lot anchor redevelopment, 300 space public parking garage, and number 4 was Columbus Avenue streetscape. So I wonder if we got the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
I wonder if those projects were meant to be done before this project was done. A couple of other things, our county fathers out at 2900 Columbus Ave, they've made overtures about closing this parking garage at night and opening it back up in the morning. They said because of vandalism issues. If that happens, that would create an additional problem. So I just think when it comes to parking, if you break it, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. And we've given up a lot more parking than we've created. Some of the things I thought about, and I've expressed those to Erin, and she said that she would look into them. We need to nail down lot sharing, maybe the Social Security building, but I understand that's a long-term process. The old Third National Bank, behind the First Presbyterian Church, maybe the Cardinal lot, although now I'm not so sure they would be willing to do that. But even if you use that lot for, I don't know, maybe some parking with the hotel, if some valet parking, or I agree with Mr. Crable, Mr. Waddington, his idea to shuttle from the lot where the boat ramp is. I think that would be a very good idea. Maybe that could be used as valet parking to create more parking in the garage during different events. I don't know, but yeah, I have some real concerns. I had a problem with the cost. I can get by the cost, but I think the parking is the real issue in my mind. And I feel that I'm not against the project, but I think it would be better to wait until these things panned out so we don't make a serious mistake. I've read and I've heard people say, well, the people that aren't for this aren't for progress. Well, I'm for progress. I just want smart progress. And relative to the public dollars to show that we're serious about bringing developers here, I think we've shown that time and time again with public dollars that we put into development. So that's all I have to say, Mr. Chairman.
Additional comments, Commissioners?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Murray.
Tough vote. We've had 10 years of tough votes, and we've been moving forward for 10 years. These aren't easy things to figure out. 10 years ago, when I rejoined the commission, we didn't have any tough votes. We just had a tough situation. And we've had a lot of meetings like tonight where there are people who are in favor or against a particular proposition. And my guiding star has always been, what do the young people think is necessary in order to come back to this community? That's been important, and we've seen that change. That's critical for our long-term success, for all of our long-term success. I think about some of the tough votes we've had to increase the admissions tax, this income tax, moving City Hall, the Justice Center, Jackson Street Pier. It looks easy today. It was tough at the time. Let me just tell you, that was a lot tougher vote than this one. We've had to vote on multiple difficult TIF agreements. We've had a battery park development agreement, all sorts of votes on moving forward with the Sandusky Bay pathway. And we had to take these votes always knowing that we couldn't solve every single problem there today, that there would be additional work that would be required in the future. In this case, obviously, parking is an issue that's of great concern. It has to be addressed. It will be addressed. That's a great problem to have, but it's one that comes from economic development and investment, and then we have to figure out how to make all these things mix. So it's always a balance of the two, but if we don't have the economic development, we don't need to worry about the parking so much. So I spoke at length the last meeting. I won't speak any further, but I do support this project.
Mr. Chair.
I'd like to make a comment.
Absolutely.
I didn't
know
you could certainly have the floor after that. I understand what the point Mr. Murray's making about 10 years of making tough decisions, and this is certainly, interestingly, a tough one tonight. There are a couple sides here that are at odds, certainly. I can tell you that in our role, oftentimes, you have to be bold. You don't have to be reckless, but you have to be bold. And I think that's what prior commissions have been. And I think certainly we have an issue, or we think we have an issue with parking. But there are so many things about this project that dwarf the parking issue. I think when you put a new look downtown, you raise the bar. You make it more attractive for tourists and residents to show up here, spend their dollars here. I think ultimately the merchants are the big beneficiaries of that. But you know what? Every resident in this city ends up being a beneficiary of that too. And it's been maybe it's a narrow focus, but it's been my focus, or my concept anyway, in the last 10 years, that every time someone opposes a project in the city, it seems to revolve around parking. What a great problem to have. 10 years ago, you could have shot a shotgun down Columbus Ave and not knocked anybody down. Now we're struggling over how do we park all the cars. I've provided each one of you with volumes of information on this project. I have provided each of you, as you all have, contact with staff on this project. Staff has worked tirelessly. We have $500,000 in consultants' fees for this project. And I will tell you that if it's the decision to kick this down the road a year, you'll kick it down the road 20 years. I don't believe it will ever get done if it's not done now. Those are my thoughts. Mr. Varga.
Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to, in listening to you and Mr. Murray, I appreciate so many people out here in the audience that have done amazing things for our community. This development has been gangbusters. I too grew up here and remembered when you could throw a bowling ball down Columbus Avenue. And, so it's been amazing, the progress. But I think this is just where the little bit of the difference comes in from how we think. And I don't think progress is going to stop just because we don't do this exactly right now. I would rather see us get the parking situation figured out. And it's not about spaces. There's spaces all over downtown, all over, outside, all the way to Adams Street, like Aaron says. There are. And many people would be willing to do that walking. But it's about the management we talked about this, where residents will be, where do they go? Where do employees go? I had an employee talk to me, well, I'm concerned if you do give me a spot, where's it going to be? Because when I come out of work, I have $500-600 in my pocket from waiting tables that night, and I have a concern about where I'm going to walk to get to my car. So there's a lot of that type of thing going on. Again, I'm going to say, I like the project. I think it will be amazing. I do. What I would like to see us do is get the parking management process right first, so everybody wins. I disagree that we don't do it. I'll say right here publicly, I will vote again on this as soon as someone comes to me with a concrete parking plan. I will. And I will vote yes on it. But I'm just not ready to do that yet tonight.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Jones.
I wasn't here for the Jackson Street project, but didn't that go through a series of different renditions before it was finally finalized? I mean, I remember all the hearings and stuff. I don't think there's anybody, and I can't speak for anybody around this table, but I don't think there's anybody that doesn't want to see this project happen. I mean, it's a great project. It's just, I think we have some concerns about maybe getting it right and maybe putting a pause button on this so that we can try to get it right. I mean, I didn't even mention the mobility issues. I agree with Aaron. Once you get there, it's going to be easy to access that location. But what if you can't get down here? How are you going to get down here on a walker or people that have trouble walking? They have to park a couple blocks away. I just think there's a lot of questions. And somebody brought up, I don't know if it was Mr. Murray at one of the meetings where you went to Cincinnati and you had to walk. Well, I think that's a little different because when you go to those areas, you have it in your mind that you're in a bigger town and you're going to have to walk. That's already your mindset. But it's a little different here. And I just think that, I mean, I don't think anybody's saying, no, we don't want this project. I think if I can speak for some of the people around the table, we just want to get it right.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Cool.
One of the things I wanted you to address, and maybe Aaron, through you, because you both said kicking this can down for another year, and I'm saying to myself, well, I need to understand, why do you say that? Like, if there are questions on the table that actually can be answered, if I was the person that had to answer the questions and do the work, I'd work overtime in answering the questions. So the sooner we had the answers, right, you come to us and you say, hey, and you invite all of the folks who are really, really concerned so they can hear what's been done to address the issue, then I'd say they addressed the issue really well. I'm with you. But until they're answered, right, I don't feel like kicking the can down a year. You'd have to explain that to me, why you really believe it would be a year. Wouldn't that be based on the kind of work you do to answer the questions? Wouldn't it be working overtime to make sure that folks had what they need so they would be satisfied? And there'd still be some people that won't be satisfied. That is what it is. If I'm satisfied with what I hear, then we'll move. Or at least I'll move. I shouldn't say we. But that's how I'm feeling right now.
Additional comments, Commissioner?
Mr. President,
Commissioner Crable.
several points. This is going to surprise some people. I mean, I like the pretty of the project as much as anybody, okay? But in some regards, we may actually realize, as we're working through this project, someday digging, that the most important part of the project is the water line. Replacing it, because we don't really know for sure exactly what the condition is and everything. It's just my observation. Oh, thank you. I want to also share with you, I drove through downtown last Tuesday. I was on my way out to Sandusky High School to watch my Blue Streaks win yet another game. And I was completely stunned, and maybe there's an explanation that something big was going on in downtown Sandusky. There were no parking places. There were no parking places on the street. There were no parking places in the surface lot behind Daly's. There were no spaces. That was a Tuesday night in the middle of the winter. Now, again, maybe there's an explanation, but I would say if we aren't at a point of crisis, it's coming over the hill. It's coming at us fast with parking. My desire, I want to see a well-developed, thorough parking plan. And I would like you to please include the public's input, the business input, if you want commission input beyond what you've heard tonight, this evening. Let's just jump on it. Let's get after this thing. Okay? But I think it's really important that everybody has a chance to participate.
Thank you, Mr. Crable. I'll turn to the law director and ask for his guidance. I think that I'm hearing the will of the commission, and that would be, and I'm not going to use the word postpone the vote because that would be an incorrect motion. Mr. Hastings, I wonder if you can share with us what the correct motion would be to postpone to a certain date?
Yes, that is the motion, postpone to a certain date.
Okay, and can you walk us through how that works and exactly what that motion means?
Yeah, well, someone would have to make a motion to postpone to a certain time, is how Robert's Rules describes it. There'd have to be a second.
And do we have to pick that time out tonight?
Yes, certain time, you would have to pick out the time. And actually, it cannot be any longer than the next regular meeting, although you can postpone it again at that meeting if you want.
What, Mr. President, what I would hate to see, I would hate to see a no vote taken. All right, so I would rather see, as Commissioner Vargo has suggested, that we take the time that's necessary to get this parking plan polished up and ready to go. May I ask a question?
Sure.
How long is it going to take? I know that when the 2014 study was done, it was months. It wasn't weeks.
Through the Commission President, to Commissioner Crable, there's a lot of factors that would go into a scoping what the parking plan looks like. You mentioned public engagement. So if you want to do a really robust public engagement campaign, you come up with key messages, you talk about when people are going to be in a place where you can gather their feedback, you hold meetings, maybe you do an online survey. That stuff takes a month or two to prepare sometimes, so it depends on how much robust community engagement we would want in a parking plan. There's certainly things we can do right now. Tom Horseman and I have already talked about taking drone shots this season, counting empty spaces, so we know we have a good update. When staff counted in 2019, they counted 52 times and the parking was never more than 50% full. In the parking study, when they counted in the peak hours, there were 66% open spaces on average. So we know that our abundance has decreased, but we don't know how much. We don't know where we are right now. We hear that people are struggling to find parking, but we still have an abundance of spaces. So one would be defining things we can do right now, monitoring, if we want to talk about the turnover of on-street parking, it could be something we could do right away. We want to talk about identifying an entity outside of the city that would be managing it. That could be a vendor. That might be interviews and research to understand what those cost implications are, if they could pay for themselves, how they would report. So certainly it could be, I think there's some easy low-hanging fruit that we could work on right away, and maybe it's a multi-phase process where we think about, here's some easy wins, and then here's some things we can learn more about and then implement once we have that more knowledge, et cetera. So it's certainly not something that we have to wait a year to do. We can make some advancements on that now. And could I respond to another comment too? So I struggle to articulate this, but I will say that in my experience, I worked as a consultant for many years before I came to the city. Every place, every project, every plan we worked on, parking was an issue and something that people brought up, and I truly believe we will never solve it to the satisfaction of everyone. And it was very popular in the 70s and 80s that we planned built environments for parking spaces, and we got built environments that looked like Perkins Avenue and the mall, and they were very, very popular for a long time, and now they've dropped off steeply in how popular they are. And now they're places with big malls that are declining or trying to figure out how do they keep their anchors in? How do they bring new users in, like bumper cars inside of what used to be Elder Beerman? How do they build housing around those places? Because the parking spaces, they're way overparked and they have way more spaces than they need. And people want to live near where they go out. They want to live near where they play. They want to see their friends out and get coffee. They want to be in places like downtown Sandusky. And Commissioner Pajali mentioned the mindset. If you're going to a bigger city, it's already your mindset. It wasn't always in their mindset. Their mindset changed as their built environment changed. Their mindset changed as their preferences changed. And what we're seeing now is a call for people to be able to come to great public spaces, and we've operated a whole season with 40 fewer spaces in the parking lot over there as the State Theater took them for construction, and it worked great. Our season worked great. We got people down here all season. Businesses are making money. They're busy on the weekends, and those are 40 spaces we're going to get back when that's done. When the Columbus Avenue Underpass was closed for, how long was that? Oh, Mr. Klein's not sitting there. 9 months, 6 months. People that drove there every single day found a different way to drive, and they changed their habits. Because I think we underestimate sometimes the adaptability of people, that they will find new places to park, and they will walk past a storefront they didn't notice before, and they will explore new things. And we will adapt, and being cautious about everything and not making action could hold us back.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Berry.
Let me just offer two thoughts for consideration. One, we have an extremely talented and capable staff, and they can do this. They can do multiple things at the same time. They can plan the Columbus Avenue project and address the long-term parking study such that it's in place. And not just a study, but whatever it is that we decide is the mechanism that's most appropriate given our existing resources and demand. We can do all of those things at the same time. The second thing I would observe is that we're in charge. It's clear that a majority of this commission wants to see something concrete on parking. All right? Let's do it. We could take a vote as soon as today or tomorrow on what it is we want to direct staff to do. We can do both these things at the same time. Thank you.
Additional comments, Commissioner?
If I may.
Mr. Crable.
Mr. President, one of the questions, yes, we have very talented people on our staff, okay, and I'm very grateful for that. Has there been a conversation about going back to the vendor that did the original study and asking for an update rather than breaking new ground?
An update to the parking study. I've asked some people I know that I don't have any contacts at Kimley Horn. I certainly could update them. If you wanted to do a brand new parking study, what I've been told is the range is like $25,000 to $50,000 if you want to conduct something with a consultant. I don't necessarily think that we do need that because we have the 2014 study that has a great basis. It just depends on what the scope of that is as we define it together through the chair.
Mr. Pajali, look like you have an idea.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if we vote no, then we're just voting no on bidding the project, right?
That's correct.
That doesn't mean we can't bring it back.
That's correct.
And in my mind, time frame is the State Theater supposed to open in July, right? Is that when the theater's going to open? Mr. Parthomore?
This summer.
Okay. So we aren't that far off from their opening. I'd just kind of like to see what happens when you bring all those vehicles down and try to pin down that parking garage, how much parking we're going to have in the parking garage with the hotel. I'd like to see that. And if those two things are put in place, and maybe during that time period staff can work on trying to tighten up some of the other parking and work with some of the business people to try to come to a compromise. I realize it's never going to be 100%, but if we're going to move forward, we're going to have to compromise on some things.
Do you have a concern, Mr. Pajali, about the two projects colliding?
Well, you know, I know there was some concern about that, but I don't know if there's a cleaner way to do it as far as they may collide, but that has to be an understanding that everybody's going to have. I don't know.
Additional comments? Any motions? Feeling any motions? I'll ask Ms. Myers to poll the commission on the motion.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
No.
Ms. Fargo?
No.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
No.
And now on the resolution.
Excuse me, Mr. President, that was a 4-3 vote, so that was to waive the rule, and we did not have enough votes to do that. So this would be the first reading.
That changes to a first reading.
Correct.
Okay. So we need to vote on the resolution?
No.
We do not. Okay. So the first reading is passed by a 4-3 vote.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay. We'll come back now for a second reading at another meeting.
Yes, the next reading.
Next reading.
Next meeting.
Ms. Myers, will you present item number 2, please?
Item 2 is 2 ordinances. Ordinance number 1, it is requested an ordinance be passed amending Part 9, Streets, Utilities, and Public Services Code, Title 3, Utilities, Chapter 933, Sewer Regulations and Rates, Section 933.25, Rates of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Sandusky in a manner and way specifically set forth here and below, and declaring that this ordinance shall take effect under suspension of the rules as contained in and in accordance with Section 13 of the City Charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, I don't believe we need a motion. This is a second reading. We do not need a motion on that.
Item 2, no, I believe this is the first reading. Last time we had a presentation.
Just a presentation.
This is the water one.
So we need 5 votes to waive if we want to pass it.
Do we have a motion? Commissioners?
So moved.
Have you heard the ordinance? We have a motion. We have a second.
I did.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Now we have discussion.
Number 2.
I didn't hear it.
Any discussion on item number 2? If not, Ms. Myers, do you poll the commission on the motion?
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
That ordinance is passed. Ms. Myers, you present item number 2, ordinance number 2.
It is requested an ordinance be passed amending Part 9, Streets, Utilities, and Public Services Code, Title 3, Utilities, Chapter 939, Water Regulations and Rates, Section 939.13, City Rates of the codified ordinances of the City of Sandusky in a manner and way specifically set forth here and below, and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect under suspension of the rules as contained in and in accordance with Section 13 of the City Charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, any wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to adopt this ordinance under Section 13 of the City Charter.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Discussion. Ms. Myers, will you call the roll on that ordinance, please?
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
That ordinance is passed under Section 13. Ms. Myers, you present item number 3, please.
Item number 3 is a second reading. It is requested an ordinance be passed affirming the recommendation of the Planning Commission denying the request to amend the official zone map of the City of Sandusky to rezone parcels number 57-03358, 57-02994, 57-02885, 57-02989, and 57-04471 located on Cleveland Road from R160 Single Family Residential District and R2F Two Family Residential District to RRB Residential Business District.
Commissioners, I don't believe we need a motion on this. This is the ordinance that is a second reading. We do not need an ordinance. We'll go right to discussion. Ms. Myers, you call the roll on that ordinance, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Coons?
Point of clarification.
Mr. Crable.
What does the yes vote mean? What does the no vote mean?
Mr. Hastings, a yes vote is to support the Landmark Commission. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is the Planning and Zoning Planning Commission. The yes vote would support their recommendation to deny the rezoning.
So a yes vote is to support their decision.
Correct.
Support? To deny.
Yes.
Just wanted to be clear.
You're clear now. Ms. Myers, you call the roll on that
Yes, Mr.
ordinance,
President.
please.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
I abstain.
That ordinance is passed. Ms. Myers, you present item number 4, please.
Yes, Mr. President. It is requested an ordinance be passed authorizing and directing the city manager to enter into an amendment to the agreement for professional design services with OHM Advisors of Cleveland, Ohio for the Sandusky Wheels Park Design and Construction Documentation Project and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Waddington.
I move for the adoption of this ordinance under suspension of the rules in full accordance with Section 14 of the City Charter.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion. Ms. Myers, you call the roll on that motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington? Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo? Yes. Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
That ordinance is passed. As you present item number 5, please.
It is requested an ordinance be passed approving and adopting the 2024 5-year capital improvement plan for the city of Sandusky and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we adopt this ordinance under Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Coons.
just a few comments related to the approval of this improvement plan. One of the things that is kind of puzzling to me, and it's back to the same dilemma of being a new commissioner, is that much of what's been done already didn't have an opportunity to really chime in on. So it becomes difficult when you think about 5 years. And so can you give me clarification? Because I've read this where it says basically that it doesn't mean that we can't, change projects, we can't alter projects. I just wanted some feedback as it relates to that portion of it. So this is just for the improvement plan, but there's much in that I'm wondering, can we shift, some resources here? Can we do something else here? Can you explain that to me?
I think that Mr. Klein has a great explanation because we talked about that as early as today. And I will give you the Reader's Digest version and he will give you the novel,
Okay.
I think. But the reality is, this is just a plan.
Okay.
This is a plan that is meant to be a blueprint to move forward. And every one of those, I hope I'm not stealing our lines from today, but every one of those projects that's over $10,000 comes back to this commission to be voted on.
Okay.
What can you amplify on that, Mr. Klein?
I would just encourage the commissioners, the public, anybody else that is interested in the plan or has interest in one of the projects to reach out to that department. We've set up the plan so you know which department's responsible. So I would encourage you to reach out to that department, get more information on it now, whether it's this year or in 2027 or whenever it is, so you can get that feedback and get a better understanding up front.
And the key, I think the key, Commissioner Kuntz, for yourself, myself, and for all of us is the plan is totally flexible. And I know that you are passionate about different things. This is going to be your chance.
Okay.
This is all of our chances to immerse ourselves in this plan going forward. That's what it takes to make the city work. Is we need to provide feedback to staff on with the direction we want to go, what we want to work on. This is an opportunity for you to have direct input in that.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Mr. Murray.
So I'm going to go back again to 10 years ago. We didn't have any capital spend, and this wasn't a problem back then. And as we began to see more resources come online, we asked Mr. Klein to develop a 5-year capital plan because we were used to looking at the annual budget. We didn't have a capital plan. And this is a marvelous document. There are very few cities that have a 5-year capital plan like this. This requires a ton of work. Mr. Klein, you are an unsung hero in this, but not anymore because I just named you as a hero. But you should be, and all the staff that contribute. I know there are a lot of people. Ms. Reeder, Law, all the department heads put a lot of time into this. And it is, as Commissioner Brady indicated, totally flexible in terms of how we spend these dollars. But this gives us an insight in terms of what staff is thinking about, where the different projects are that lie out there that they're thinking about, where the revenues would come, whether it's grant funding or taxes or TIF funding, whatever it is, where those would come. And we can begin to think about, whether these things are feasible, whether we want to shift some things. So I'm very appreciative of this as a wonderful planning tool for us. What's in 2024 is much closer to coming to fruition, sometimes with votes we've already taken, sometimes votes to be taken in the near future. What's further out gets bumped and moved as funding sources change, as priorities change, as the needs in the community change. So the further out you get, the less realistic that is in terms of actually happening, but it's a good way to think about it. So thank you, Mr. Klein.
Mr. Klein, this is the point where you explained to Mr. Murray that I have served as your liaison for the last 11 years.
I was just going to do that,
I
sir.
thought you were going to do that. See, thank you.
And that gives you credit in what sense?
None whatsoever.
I didn't think so.
I had a lot of lunches, though. Mr. Crable.
Yes, just some observations. I too am very impressed with the sheer volume of work and effort that has gone into this. Why you ever volunteered, I don't know. Because it is a substantial document. Part of this is comments that you've heard previously. I don't know if you gathered information from the commissioners, the last commission, prior to putting this together. I know I have not had any input into it, and I see things that I would say that's the priority. And so, yes, I will be weighing in. But I would hope that one of the things that I would ask of you is that we have an actual meeting at which the public can weigh in, maybe a meeting of the commission so we can talk about priorities, and where we think that the priorities should be for some of these things. And I think that Ms. Reeder is going to have to weigh in on some of this given the financial exigencies that exist. But I'm impressed with the level of effort that's gone into it. But I do ask that there be a plan put in place in the near term that we can start to reshape this perhaps.
Ms. Myers, you call the roll on the motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Wantington? Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Wantington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
That ordinance is passed. Sorry to present item number 6, please.
It is requested an ordinance be passed authorizing and directing the city manager to enter into a contract with the director of the Ohio Department of Transportation for the ODOT resurfacing urban paving City of Sandusky project and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner
move for the adoption of this ordinance under suspension of the rules as contained in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Motion and a second discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I've got a couple of questions for Mr. Klein. Mr. Schwanger mentioned about bike paths, or was it Mr. Poole? This is an ODOT project, and I imagine ODOT calls the shots on what can be incorporated into that project, right?
Through the president to Commissioner Pajali, yes, this is something that if we choose to add things to the project, it's 100% city funded.
That's what I thought.
I know I've had conversations with Mr. Poole in the past, and he's always looked to add sidewalks, and I don't know if when he meant expanding sidewalks, if he meant adding where the unsidewalked areas are on the south side of the street rather than widening the bike paths and those things. We've gone after funding, we've gone through the MPO and those types of things to look for it. We will continue to do that. There's no reason to say we won't continue to do that after this, and I know all the sidewalk funding that we have is to repair existing sidewalks, not to add additional sidewalks throughout the city, except for that Meadowwood project that we are moving forward on.
Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to follow up on his question. And my other question is this OPWC grant money, 175. Did ODOT apply for that, or did the city apply for that?
Through the president, that was something that Josh Snyder applied for in our office.
Yeah, I didn't know if ODOT could apply for that money, but Mr. Snyder's on it again.
This money. Ms. Myers, you call the roll on that motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Wantington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
Now on the ordinance.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Wantington? Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
That ordinance is passed. Ms. Myers, you present item number 7, please.
It is requested an ordinance be passed authorizing and directing the city manager to enter into an amendment to the agreement for professional design services with Bramhall Engineering and Surveying Company of Avon, Ohio for the East Perkins Avenue resurfacing project and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Wright.
I move for the adoption of this ordinance resolution under suspension of the rules in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second?
Been a motion and a second discussion. Mr. Klein, there was some confusion by the wording of what this is. This is really not the East Perkins Avenue project that we have recently completed. This is the East Perkins Avenue project from Mylan Road to Remington. That's a totally different contract, totally different contractor.
Yes, sir.
And it's for acquiring some additional right-of-ways that were necessary, additional properties, I think, were found.
Yes, at the time of the scope of services, there were only 3 properties that were anticipated. When the consultant started going through the project, they found a 4th, and this one is to do the acquisition of that 4th property.
Additional comments, Commissioners? Ms. Myers, you call the roll on that motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Wantington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Wantington? Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
That ordinance is passed. Ms. Myers, you present item number 8, please.
It is requested a resolution be passed declaring the necessity for the city to proceed with the proposed 2024 local street resurfacing project, approving the specifications and engineer's estimate of costs thereof, and directing the city manager to advertise for and receive bids in relation thereto, and declaring this resolution shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this resolution, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to adopt this ordinance under Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. I think that, Josh, you're going to give us a very brief presentation.
Very brief, I promise. Thank you. So leading into this, obviously this year's project, we have 43 blocks slated to get resurfaced, milled and paved as we have been the last 3 years. We also have almost $50,000 section of parking lot west of the service center, popular area for recycling, and that area is in really poor condition. It's not been paved since we took the service center. Near 2001, 2002, we occupied that building. So it's due, it gets a lot of traffic, and so residents will appreciate that. They're off the end of Cement Ave. But I believe you all have a list of the 43 streets. It was an exhibit to the legislation. So this is an overview of what we've done pavement-wise in the last 9 years. Many of you will recall 2015 was the last pavement condition rating. So we had an evaluation done by a consultant, drove all the streets, told us numerically with actual values depending on the different types of deteriorations on the streets. Potholes are worth more of a value, certain cracks, rutting, washboarding, those kinds of defects have different values. And so the first time we had this done in 2015, and then we just had it done again at the end of last year. Some of you will recall legislation for that. So in 2015, our average PCI, pavement condition index, score was 60. After subsequent to 2015, it's likely that we weren't putting in the $1 million that was suggested. We weren't keeping up with the deterioration. So it's likely the score dipped down to about 47. And and that's an approximate number, in 2018, that's when we started picking up the scale of the resurfacing program and getting more streets. So since then, 2015 to 2023, of our 108 miles of roads, we've been able to pave about 55 miles of the 108. So this year we have another 7.3 planned. Down in the bottom left, you can see a little breakdown if it's not too small. The 43 sections that are up for vote tonight total 4.1 miles. CDBG, which is our mid-year resurfacing that will be coming back in probably June for, is a little over a mile. The urban paving that that Director Klein referred to earlier, the Route 6 portion is about 2 miles, and the 250 section north of the overpass is about 1/10. So there's 7.3, which brings us to almost 62.5 miles of roadway paved since 2015. So that's more than half, almost 58% of all of our streets. So the summary of the amount we've been putting into the roads is that despite the street network, all of our streets as an aggregate degrading about 4 points per year, which we equated, and Transmap equated in their presentation in 2015. It's about $1 million of pavement work to keep up with that depreciation. We've actually improved the overall score by 7 points in 8 years to 67. So conversely, had we done nothing, we'd be 28 is the hypothetical number there, and so hence the graph on the bottom right there with one improving and one not, and one declining. So going forward, this is the approach, and we talked about this about 2 years ago. I think I presented on what we had been doing and our first big aggressive project. So going forward, we'll need to reallocate some of our resurfacing dollars and focus more on ceilings and treatments, preserving the good pavements. And so it's going to be more preventative instead of reactive maintenance we need to be doing on our roads. So this will make our money go further. We'll be able to address more roads. And again, with the amount of newer pavement we do have, more than half of our roads have been done in recent years. There's going to be a paradigm shift of maintenance, and so the street department's on board, and they know this, they understand this, and so this has already been explained. And you've seen this graph before. Some of the wording on the right-hand side is a little bit tough, but with a cumulative score of 67 for, or an average score of 67 for all of our roadways, we're in between the yellow and the green area, where on the right-hand side they're suggesting surface treatments and micro-surfacing. There's liquid road, there's cape seals over there as options that all of the pavement industry says, hey, this is your best money spent. This is where you need to be putting your dollars for your roads, given this condition. You know, we had dug ourselves out from literally like the brown area, conventional approach of purely milling and filling and paving. Not that there's not any more of that to do, but it's just showing you the shift of where we're at priority-wise. So in summary, City Commission's commitment to improving pavement conditions and allocating $5 million of ARPA funding from 21 to 23, that was a really a big time for pavements to be getting improved. And surface treatments, we've done some in recent years. We've done them somewhat with some mixed results, depending if we mistakenly use them probably on busier roads. They do really well on lower volume roads, which is primarily what we've done with our local streets program. So we also in summary, kind of our recent and our current street selection methodology, we believe is a good, fair, and justifiable way going forward. And so there's a little bubble graph on the bottom right, and it kind of shows what all plays into us picking the streets. And you know, it's not somebody throwing darts at a map. It's truly, you know, gathering input from residents. You know, that's one of these 5 points, and one is hearing out our street department. They're the guys, they're our boots in the ground. They're the ones filling the holes. They know where the worst roads are. And so, you know, we have the pavement condition index, and we have this consulting firm come in and they rate our streets, and it's great and good, and they give us values for a road. But again, it's one of 5 things we use to consider when we pick streets. And so, so it's not one sole decision maker for us. That's all I have.
Questions or comments for Snyder? Mr. Crable.
Quick question. I saw an effort to seal coat Hancock, or a couple blocks along Hancock in past years. I know kind of what seal coating does for parking lots and that sort of thing, but I know streets are a little different kind of critter. I take it from your presentation that that was successful or deemed successful.
I think that's one of the ones, Director Klein can correct me, I think that's one we would not do again with that product.
Oh.
And so I think there are better streets to use for that product. Hancock's fairly high volume, actually, coming off of 250. It's kind of a straight shot into downtown. So we'd probably use that product elsewhere if we use it again. Okay. But again, there's a lot of tools in the box, if you will, for surfacings and sealants and whatnot. So, yeah.
I was just curious, having driven it every day for, you know, most of my life here.
Sure.
You see it go down, and you just wonder, how did it pan out? So.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Murray.
We certainly haven't reached nirvana, but we're getting closer. Mr. Klein, Mr. Snyder, you also have spoken for many years now about making these continued investments in the asphalt, in our streets. And then we would get to this point where, after making these concentrated investments over a long period of time, we would get to the point where we could actually have better streets and back off the dollars we're investing. So I think it's great that we finally turned that corner, and look forward during my remaining time here working with you to support additional investments in repaving the streets, but more importantly going forward, making those smaller yet more important, even still, investments in maintenance. That's where we want to be. So thanks for getting us there.
Thank you.
As far as you poll the commission on the motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Wantington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
And now on the resolution.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Wantington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
That resolution is passed. Mrs. Myers, you present item number 9.
It is requested an ordinance be passed authorizing and directing the city manager to approve the first change order for work performed by Shermer Construction LLC of North Olmsted, Ohio, for the 2023 Underpass Rehabilitation at Columbus Avenue project in the amount of $34,500, and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, how do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chairman, I move for the adoption of this ordinance resolution under suspension of the rules in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion. Mr. Klein, the question was asked, what are we buying for $34,500? I believe it's lighting, but go ahead and confirm that.
Yes, sir. When we originally bid this project on Columbus Avenue, we didn't have enough money to award the lighting on Tiffin that was also bid as part of that project. That was an alternate bid. So we really wanted to do that. So what we did when we were going through the capital plan is we felt that this was such a priority with feedback from residents and everybody else that we felt it was important to present to you guys an option to put that $34,500 back into the project and do the lighting at Tiffin.
And which subway is that?
The Tiffin
The
Underpass.
Tiffin Underpass will get new lighting,
Yes.
both sides.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Pajano?
Mr. Klein, I fully support this. But when I've been over there with Mr. Waddington for cleanups, I mean, it's dark all the time under there. I just hope that the whole thing doesn't collapse and when we spend the 34.5 for naught because, and I know that's the railroad handles all that, but I think it's a good use of funds.
Mr. Chairman, I second that. We're going to wear hard hats under there this year.
I don't know if it's going to do any good.
The new conduit system might hold it up. As far as you poll the commission on that motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Vargo?
Yes.
Mr. Wantington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Vargo?
Yes.
Mr. Wantington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
That ordinance is passed. Ms. Myers, you present our item number 10, please.
It is requested a resolution be passed declaring the necessity for the city to proceed with the proposed 2024 sidewalk repair, replacement, and grinding project, Contract A, approving the specifications and engineer's estimate of cost thereof, and directing the city manager to advertise for and receive bids in relation thereto, and declaring that this resolution shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this resolution, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner
I
Pajano?
move for the adoption of this resolution under suspension of rules in full accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Got a motion on the second discussion. I think there was a question regarding funding from the out of the fire department. Can you give us some explanation of that, Mr. Klein?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. When we do these sidewalk projects, we budget $100,000 to $105,000 a year. And then we approach the fire department, the recreation department, and others to try to see if they have other projects that we might be able to bring their funding, not sidewalk funding. They're not paying for sidewalks, but they might have projects on their properties. And the fire department did have a project this year at Station 3 that they wanted to do, so to get the best funding, rather than two separate projects, we're putting them together and just adding their funding to this as well.
I was pretty sure you weren't just stealing the chief's money.
No. That's why I'm sitting
He
2
wouldn't let
seats
you do
away.
that. Additional comments, Commissioner? Ms. Myers, you poll the commission on that motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Vargo?
Yes.
Mr. Wantington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady? Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
Now on the resolution.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable? Ms. Vargo?
Yes.
Mr. Wantington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes,
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
that resolution is passed. Ms. Myers, you present our last item, item number 11.
It is requested an ordinance be passed authorizing and directing the city manager to expend funds for the purchase of one Intox DMT breath testing instrument and related accessories for OVI enforcement to Intoxometers Incorporated of St. Louis, Missouri for the Sandusky Police Department, and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, what's your pleasure?
Chair.
Commissioner Kuntz.
Move for adoption of this ordinance under suspension of the rules as contained in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second discussion.
If I may,
Grable.
Mr. President, is this just a replacement of existing equipment?
Through you, Commission President, Commissioner Grable. The Ohio Department of Health authorizes the machines that are available for the law enforcement to use for breath testing for OVI enforcement. The Data Master is the current machine, effective January 23rd of 2025. That is not going to be certified through the state of Ohio anymore. This is the machine that they have chosen to be used for law enforcement throughout the state.
Okay.
The reason we're here now is because there's at least a 10-month lead time after we order to purchase it. So to keep up with our OVI enforcement, we have to sort of get on this right now. This will be the new breath testing instrument for law enforcement going forward, certified by the Ohio Department of Health.
Thank you.
Chief, you hung around all night for one breathalyzer tester.
Well, if I'd have known through item 10 that I could have got the fire department paid for it, I'd have tried to jump into that one.
You didn't take the money from Mario.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking.
You'll know next time.
Yeah, I will.
Ms. Myers, you poll the commission on that ordinance, on that motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable? Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
Now on the ordinance.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington? Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
That ordinance is passed. We will now turn, that concludes our regular agenda. We'll turn to our acting city manager for her report.
Thank you. So we're going to start off with some donations. Parks and Recreation would like to thank Marvin Martin for the donation of his services to repair the stage curtain at Sandusky Rec at Mills. I would like to request a motion for that donation.
So moved.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. Without objection, the motion be approved. Hearing no objection, that motion is approved. Our thanks to Mr. Martin.
Next donation, Parks and Recreation would like to thank Kathy Werner for her donation of plastic flatware to be used at the Midtown Supper Club. I would like to request another motion for that donation.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second discussion. Without objection, that motion be approved. Hearing no objection, that motion is approved. With our thanks to Ms. Werner.
Next donation, Park and Recreation would like to thank Father's Heart Family Church for their donation of 2 cases of sandwich bags and 1 case of plastic flatware to the out-of-school program.
Move to
Motion.
approve.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. Without objection, that motion will be approved. Hearing no objection, that motion is approved. With our thanks to Father's Heart Church.
Parks and Recreation would like to thank Jennifer Washington for her donation of $120 towards Sandusky Recreation Youth Program. If I could request another motion for that donation.
Move to approve.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. Without objection, that motion be approved. Hearing no objection, that motion is approved. Our thanks to Ms. Washington.
The last donation, Parks and Recreation would like to thank Judy Corso for her donating $5 and change from her purchase of Midtown Supper Club tickets back to the program. If we could have a motion for that donation.
So moved.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. Without objection, that motion be approved. Hearing no objection, that motion is approved. Our thanks to Ms. Corso.
Thank you. So moving on, the administration, the Ohio Department of Development announced that the city of Sandusky has been awarded $250,000 from the Energy Efficiency Program for Ohio Communities. This program was created to help complete energy efficiency retrofits in existing buildings. The city of Sandusky was one of 35 projects awarded throughout the state. We will be working with Amoresco to complete these energy upgrades and bring back future legislation to accept these funds. The Public Works Department, the contractor will begin installing the playground at AMVETS in March and will begin repairing issues with the existing buildings as weather permits. This work will be completed prior to the start of the baseball season. From the Community Development Department, CDBG public service applications will open for eligible nonprofits until March 14th, 2024, and is available on the city's website by request. The cap for this program is $25,000 per agency. You can call 419-627-5730 for more information. The Housing Development and Beautification Program opened on Monday, February 5th, 2024. Applications are being submitted now via email, mail, or Dropbox in the lobby. If you are interested in participating in the program, please visit www.cityofsandusky.com/housing to obtain an application or pick one up in the lobby. If you're unable to do either, please call 419-627-5832. There are dollars still available for housing this year. A survey is open to the public until this Friday, March 1st, 2024, to gather community input for the Community Development Block Grant Program's Consolidated Plan. The plan serves as a long-range guide for the program for the next 5 years. The survey can be accessed at www.cityofsandusky.com/CDBG. Paper copies can also be obtained at City Hall. For the Planning Division is seeking City Commission approval to apply for a 2024 skate park project grant to fund a shade structure at the Sandusky Wheels Park. If received, the grant would support the installation of one of the shade structures included in the park design. The skate park project funds grants up to $50,000 nationwide on a revolving basis. If needed, this would add funds to the overall project and not replace any city funds expected to be allocated toward the project. I would like to ask for a motion to allow the Planning Division to apply for that skate park grant.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second discussion. Without objection, I'll ask Ms. Myers to call the roll on that motion. Spend some money.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
Motion is passed.
And that completes the manager's report. I'm happy to take any questions or comments back to him.
I dare any of you to ask our interim city manager questions.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Waddington. This better be a softball.
No, last year we ran out of that money in 4 days and we got $175, 175,000 left.
Yeah.
So if anybody's out there, I don't know if they're watching or maybe get another blurb in the paper.
Or on our website.
Yeah.
Get on our website.
I
Sure.
mean, that's a lot of money left.
darn right.
Hopefully it's used.
You're precluded
Yeah.
from applying. Additional questions for the acting city manager? Not, we'll move to items of old business. Any items of old business, Commissioner?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Coons?
I have to say this. I might need Stuart's help on this
Okay.
one. Because I want everybody to know. First, I have to apologize to the entire city commission. When we're dealing with the streetscape, I absolutely support the project. But being caught up trying to make sure that, the needs of the folks are met, and sometimes I just have kind of a brain lull. And I want to show my support for it, but I think that I've kind of postponed the inevitable, and that is that we need to answer those questions. So even though this was just the first reading, I'll still be standing there when we meet again. But I think when I say I postponed the inevitable, I think I took away the opportunity to actually just kind of table it and make another motion. So I wanted to apologize to everybody that happened because I wanted to show support, but I think we still need to answer those questions. So I don't know what can be done as it relates to that. Do we have to wait until next meeting to do anything with that particular issue? But I'll still be standing in the same place while I'm still in support of the project. The questions will have to be answered, though. So I felt like I needed to say that because
I think that
Can we change, details within the motion and all come next?
You can amend the motion.
Okay.
I think staff has heard loud and clear your concerns and different concerns here, and I would expect them to begin as early as tomorrow coordinating responses to what those concerns are. So we'll get to the next reading and we'll see where that goes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other items of old business, commissioners? Items of new business? Any items of new business?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Murray?
Two items, one just a comment and secondly, a motion to consider. First, we had some conversations, Commissioner Crable in particular raised some conversations, thoughts about wanting public input into the capital planning process. And we are going to have this year what I regard as perfect opportunity to have that input, which is the strategic planning process. At the last commission meeting, we authorized the city to go ahead and get proposals. That does involve public meetings and also the commission's input. So I think it's a really great opportunity to get exactly that kind of input. The strategic plan that we've been the capital plans that we've been working off of when we weren't interrupted by COVID were all as a result of the bicentennial planning process. And so that was seeing that into execution. There isn't much left from that strategic planning process in the bicentennial. So that was not a document that was put on a shelf. That was one that the staff attacked aggressively, and I just think it's wonderful work. And I'm very thankful, and I know the community as a whole. But the second thing is that I think that we should take a more formal step. And so I'm going to offer a motion to ask staff to come back to us with a specific proposal and recommendation, not necessarily at the next meeting, although I would like it if it would be, in terms of a parking study, whether we update the one that we have or whether we embark on a new study. So that's my motion.
Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second?
I kind of thought that's where we were headed, but.
Discussion.
Okay, but you're formalizing.
Formalizing it.
Mr. Myers, do you poll the commission on that motion?
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
That motion is passed. Additional items of New business.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner.
I was hoping we could ask Mr. Klein, my neighborhood they're getting ready to bury the fiber in my neighborhood, and a lot of questions have been asked. One, do you know how long something like that's going to take? And then two, I've seen communities where they put fiber in and everyone ends up with these ugly boxes in their front yard. Are we going to all have that?
Mr. Klein, do you have that knowledge or no?
I do know through the commission president that staff in Public Works is working extremely hard to avoid the situation of those boxes, and they've requested to minimize as many locations as possible. We do have inspectors and other people on site pushing them and keeping them in check. We've had another meeting with them last week. I know it's not easy for the public to see them coming through as quickly and aggressively as they are, but our staff is working extra hours to make sure that the needs are met, not only of the contractor, but also of the residents as best we can. And I would still encourage the residents, as the contractor moves through your neighborhood, they are to be putting up door hangers.
Just got one today.
Okay, that's something that they should have been doing all along. I don't think in the past they were doing it. So that was direct result of our staff meeting with them and urging them to do what they promised they'd do at the beginning. So there is a QR code on those, and it should be something that the public should be able to get quicker responses from them.
Should we have any better communication with the residents about, because I don't think this company's doing a great job providing, although I got that today, it started well over a week ago, and nobody knew what was going on with all the crazy colors and X's and O's and everything everywhere. Is there a way to, I don't know, on our website or anything, at least for residents when they're wondering what's going on, or could we, I don't know, can we make some sort of announcement about what is going on with the fiber? A lot of people don't even know it's coming. And maybe it was in our paper, but.
Through the commission president, it's really touchy sometimes when we don't want to necessarily provide information on private projects and take the ownership of that. However, we do want to make sure that it's communicated properly and through the necessary channels and the available channels. So that's something that I do know that Omni does have information, and maybe that's something that we could get a link to. Maybe that's something that we could have something on our website that we're just providing that. Maybe that's something on social media we might be able to put that link to as well. We'll work through that.
Good.
Just
Additional items of new business.
I was trying to do a follow-up on Commissioner Vargo's question. Where's the line going? Is it in the boulevard? Is it along the sidewalk in the main lawn? Is it up against the house or, the planting beds? Is there even any hope of hiding the boxes is, I guess, what I'm asking.
Through the commission president, and I might need to defer the question on the boxes to Mr. Snyder, but they are staying as best they can in the tree lawn, the grass areas between the sidewalk, the boulevard areas between the sidewalk and the curb. No, that's not always possible. Sometimes they are getting into curb ramps and sidewalks and things like that. At the onset, a lot of it was supposed to be overhead. A lot of it has gone underground. So I know with those boxes, we have pushed them. And again, I might have to defer to Mr. Snyder as to whether we are getting landscaping around those boxes, or we're giving them the direction on what we would like to see around those boxes to make sure that they're not imposing them on the residents. As far as going up to the houses, I don't know exactly how they're getting to every house, and I don't know how they're getting the lines to them. I do know, as we're going through the right-of-way process, that they're trying to minimize the impact to any of the hard surfaces.
Yeah, this isn't a new question to me because I'm getting constituent questions about this exact same thing. Whether it's overhead or it's underground, and I'm finding out in some neighborhoods, it's both.
Through the commission president too, We could inquire with Omni if they'd be interested in answering questions, if you guys are interested in that.
I think that might be a good idea. The thing that resonates with myself is they're in our boulevard.
Yeah.
You know, so I think, you know, we have an obligation to provide some line of communication or some answers towards that if we can at all do that. It kind of peels a lot of people off of each of us getting 20 calls.
Mr. Murray. Just two things related to that. One, I think they're in our boulevard, but I assume that that's because they have an easement. And then second, Mr. Klein, just to circle back something you mentioned, staff is spending a lot of time, overtime, making sure everything is done right, but that's something that's billed back to the company.
Yes, through the commission president, I should have mentioned that. Yes, our staff is working extra hours Monday through Friday, and then even coming in on weekends, and we are billing back all that time to make sure that our infrastructure is protected as they're drilling. One more thing that I do want to make the residents aware of is that we have required Omni, as well as any other contractor that does that directional boring, to camera all of the laterals and the sewers and those types of things, because a lot of times what happens is they might accidentally hit one of the laterals, not know they hit it, and then it takes a year or 2 years for that lateral to back up and then into the basement. So we are requiring them to camera every lateral where they are drilling, so the residents should have some assurance that they're not going to have a negative impact from that.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Klein. Any additional items of new business?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Coon?
Quickly, I just wanted to take some time to acknowledge Jason Whirling, who I made a request because I had talked to the folks over there in Sunnyside about Orlando Pace Park, and he connected with First Energy contact. Don't remember the gentleman's last name, Nick, but that conversation went well, and he's going to get back to Jason and talk about ways to clean that area up back there. But right after I did that, actually, I looked at the area again yesterday. Something just told me to take a ride around town and take a look at the closest park, and that was Farwell Park on East End. And I was really, now I looked at Sunnyside's, the basketball court, and it needs some work, and he acknowledged that, Jason acknowledged that, but Farwell Park is just trash. And when I saw it, it actually, it hurt me to see it like that. And then the area behind it, it's atrocious with what you see back there. And I just think that we have to address that. It's not looking good at all over there.
Mr. Klein, I have a little bit of knowledge about Farwell Park not being our park, not being our property. Is that correct?
That is my understanding, that we don't own the property, but we do maintain it. I don't know if it's the whole thing.
It's owned by Cedar Point?
Yes. But I
Not
will.
a good reason to leave it trash, though.
I will say that, I'm sorry, the Farwell basketball court is in the capital plan to be resurfaced this year as part of the CDBG project. We're going to group those together.
Okay, that's going to happen this year. Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Jason did tell me about Central Park, the court.
Yes.
And that was good news. The area behind not Central Park, I'm sorry, Farwell Park. It's I'm telling you, you got to go take a look at it. That's all I'll say for now.
Okay.
It's in bad shape.
Any public comments on any item that pertains to city business? Mr. Lamarca, nothing? You're the last public that we got left.